Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back, my friend, to my YouTube channel, Drilling and Workover. This is Abdulaziz Gab. I am accredited instructor in IWCF Well Control and IEDC Well Charm. Also, I am accredited instructor in IEDC Mod Engineering for Basic and Advanced Mod School. Today, inshallah, we will talk about one of the most important lessons in the basic mod school, and in my opinion, it is the most important one, as because this is directly sorry, this is directly affects the mud properties and hole cleaning and a lot of problems that happen to the well. Also, it is very important if you need to read the mud report, and also if you need to write good report. So you have to take care of all what I am talking about today. So today what we will talk about, we will talk inshallah about the mud rheological properties. Actually, what are the mud rheological properties? What is the meaning of rheology? The rheology is the science which study the deformation or the flow, how the fluid flow, or how the fluid is deformable and flow, how it is going to flow. So this is very important. What are the properties that we will talk about? Actually, we will talk about four rheological properties. What are them? The first one is the viscosity. And we are talking here about the viscosity, which means the viscosity by the marsh funnel. Not the apparent viscosity, not the real viscosity, not the effective viscosity. No need to go in these details now because it is not a big deal. But the viscosity that we will talk about is here the general viscosity and also the plastic viscosity, or the PV, which is very important abbreviation that we will talk about during our course. It's called the plastic viscosity. Okay, number two, we will talk about something is called the yield point. Okay, number three, we will talk about the gel strength. Sorry, the gel strength. Okay, and we will talk later about something which is very important while drilling the horizontal well and the directional well, which is called the low shear yield point, or the Z factor in some definitions. It's called the Z factor or the low shear yield point. So this is very important. Those are the four parameters or the mud properties that we will talk about as a rheological properties. Okay, because there is other thing we will talk inshallah later, maybe in the advanced mod school. It's about the hydraulic parameters like N and K and other issues we will talk inshallah later. So now we will talk about this now. Okay, there is another things about the classification of the fluid, about the shear stress, shear rate. All this we will talk inshallah in details later when we go through the course and through the advanced mod school. But today we just will talk about the most important parameters. So keep tuned and please have a notes, and every word I will talk you have to take notes about it. What are the effect of viscosity? Okay, what is the meaning of viscosity? When I say this fluid is viscous, but for example the water is not viscous, or not have high viscosity. I say the honey have high viscosity, or the paint has high viscosity, but the water don't have high viscosity. This means, for example, if you have two cups, one of water and one another of the honey, and you try to spill them, make a spilling to them, okay, the water will flow directly and in quickly, and it will be spilled. But the honey, it will take some time in order to get to flow. Why this happen? Actually, this happens water because honey have internal resistance for the honey to flow. Internal resistance means that there is attraction forces between the particles of the honey from inner attraction forces between the particles of the honey, which prevents the flow of the layers of the honey. But for the water, there is also force, there is also internal forces, but it is not high, so that the layers of water are flowing smoothly. Okay. Also, if you need to, for example, if you have a a metal coin, and put it on the cup of water and put the other one on the cup of honey, the 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 acceleration or the velocity of the velocity of the falling in the water is higher than that in the honey, which means that the honey has internal forces to keep the fluid to be coherent with each other, not like the water. So when we make these experiments, and when the science, for example, make these experiments and discover this very important property, they decided to get benefit of it or get used of it. How? By making some fluids which can, or some chemicals which can give some viscous properties to the total fluid and increase its viscosity. And for that, it can carry the, for example, the coin, carry the cutting. Even if you are in making, for example, chocolate, if you are making chocolate, for example, in the factory, and they are bumping the chocolate, and you need to put some sweets inside it, like some sweets inside the chocolate, and it is flowing. You are putting it inside it, and the chocolate has the property of viscosity, which can so that the sweets inside the chocolate can be suspended. Okay, so this is very important property. It's called the viscosity. Okay, so the viscosity has considerable influence on the carrying capacity, which I told you we used it to get rid of or to carry the cutting out of the hole in our petroleum industry. But take care of very important thing. The viscosity also, as it is good property, it can also be bad property. Why, for example? If you need to bump something, okay, no, okay, not bumping something. If you have a friend who is thin and another friend who is fat, and you need to push him. If you need to push the thin one, you will just give him a little force. But if you need to push the fat one, you will need extra force and doubles to push him. So that, for example, for what I mean, if the viscosity is high or higher than the required value, okay, it will need a special bump, or it will need bump very high bump pressure, which may affect on the formation, and it may lead to increase in ECD, and it can lead to make fracture in the formation. So the viscosity is important property, but to a limit. Okay, so take care of this point. This is the first one. And how in our petroleum industry, how can we measure the viscosity or the funnel viscosity? Okay, by something is called marsh funnel viscosity. So that when you mix the fluid, and you ask the direct man to announce the mud weight in, mud weight out, viscosity in, viscosity out, he is measuring the marsh funnel viscosity. So how we can measure it? This is called the cup. This is the March funnel, and this cup is called the quart. It's called the quart, and this is the timer. We measure them by these three uh, sets. Okay. Okay. So the funnel viscosity is time rate full of the flow from special designed funnel and a general rheological indicator. Okay, first one, you fill, okay, you have to put your finger below the funnel, okay, cover the tip of the funnel, and you have to put from here. There is a screen, there is a screen in the funnel, and you have to pour the fluid or the fluid that you need to take its viscosity test from here, so that if there is any impurities, it can be separated here, or it can be there can be separated here, and it cannot plug the tip. So you pour here until this line, not the full marsh, but just until here, this line. Okay. Then after this, you have to remove your finger, and at the same time you start the stopwatch at the same time. Okay, so that, and when we stop, you stop when there is line in the cup. It's called the quart line. For example, it is 946 cubic centimeters. Okay, so this is the quart. Once the volume of the fluid reach to this line, stop the switch, the timer. Stop the timer and take the reading. It's called, for example, 60 second per quart, 30 second per quart. Okay, but how to know that this march funnel is calibrated? How to know that its reading are correct? Actually, we make the test first with the water. How we make it with the water? For example, uh, by using the water and this quart, as I told you, this is the line of the quart. It has to give plus or minus 62 seconds. So if it gives 62 seconds, this is water and this is calibrated apparatus. Okay, plus or minus, which means 62, 20, 26, sorry, 26 second, it is water. If it gives 27, it's not a big deal. Okay, so this is for one quart. It's okay, it means it is calibrated. Okay, now we got the viscosity. Okay, but my friend, the viscosity gives you just an indication that the fluid has good properties. But the actual results that gives you good parameters are the yield point and gel strength. So if you are caring about something in the mud, it's for yield point and gel strength, because the viscosity, you can add some chemicals like heck, for example, which gives the very high viscosity without any effect on the yield point. For example, why? Because you have crazy company man, and he asks too much about why the viscosity, why the viscosity, why the viscosity, and he didn't know how the real data are. But in my opinion, as I told you, the real data that controls the mud fluid is the yield point and gel strength. But the viscosity is just an indication that the mud is going well. Okay, so take care of this note. How can we measure the the yield point, and also how can we measure the plastic viscosity, and how we measure the yield strength? By something is called multi-speed viscometer. Okay, multi-speed viscometer. It can be used to get the plastic viscosity. What is the meaning of plastic viscosity? Okay, actually, there is, as I told you, there is some forces inside. There's some forces called friction forces inside the fluid, which keep it viscous. Okay, that's right. But assume that we have some solids, like sand, like anything in the, for example, in the honey, or in the water, or in everything. There is some solids. Okay, these solids, okay, it makes some friction also, but its friction is not in the good way. but it in the bad way. Okay, so this is also friction, but we call it as a mechanical friction, not like the attractional friction like the others. This is called mechanical, which means that this, if the solids are increasing in the mud or in the drilling fluid, it will affect badly on the viscosity. Okay, so the plastic viscosity is gives a bad effect on the mud, not just the solids. For example, if you add some water to the oil-based mud, it is not homogeneous with it, and it also gives high BV. Or even in oil-based mud, the BV is more than the yield point, and this is ABC in the oil-based mud. Why? If you see a mud engineer that with working with oil-based mud and both the yield point more than the BV, for this type, you can give him runoff letter and without any mercy. Okay, so that because he didn't understand anything. So the plastic viscosity in water-based mud is less than the yield point, but the plastic viscosity in oil-based mud must be more than the yield point. For example, and take care, how can this plastic? So what is the plastic? So the plastic viscosity, it can be considered as something strange in the drilling fluid. Okay, something strange like water base in oil base. Okay, and also like solids in mud. Okay, so it is something strange or something that increases the mechanical attraction or the mechanical friction in the mud. So this is very important thing. How can we get it from through some things called Bingham plastic model, and we will talk it inshallah in the rheological model. So no need to know it now. The plastic viscosity and the yield point also by the viscometer and the gel strength. Okay, how this viscometer is working, we will talk in the test, but we will talk about the general idea of it. This is something called the bob, and this is called the sleeve or torsional sleeve. Or rotation sleeve, sorry. This rotation sleeve is inserted here with the bob, and it has, it has recess where a pin can enter it. And after this, this bob is rotated on different speeds, like 600 and 300, 200 and 100, 6 RPM and 3 RPM. And from these readings, okay, you can get the reading through this area, and after getting the reading, you can get the PV and yield point and even the GD strength. Okay, I think this viscometer is like the simulator of what is going to happen in the well. As consider this bob as a drill string and consider this rotation sleeve as the casing, and this is the simulation that happened between in the inside the well that we will talk about inshallah later in the hydraulics. So this is the multi-speed or VG meter procedures to place mud sample in the suitable container and immerse the rotor sleeve exactly to the scribed line. Here on the rotor sleeve you will see something is called here scribed line. This scribed line, the mud must reach to the scribed line, and at this time you can start the test, and we will talk about this in details in testing water-based and oil-based mud. Measurement of the rheological temperature, okay, for yield or for PV or for gel strength, it must be 120 Fahrenheit for water-based mud and 150 for oil-based mud, and it has to be measured with the thermometer. And sometimes if you don't, if the temperature is not 120, you use here thermocouple in order to, thermocouple as you see here, in order to get the temperature of the mud to be 120 or 150 as required, whether water-based or oil-based. So what is the viscosity, the plastic viscosity? As I told you, it's a measure of internal resistance to fluid flow or mechanical friction, as I told you. it equals 600 RPM minus 300 RPM. For example, the BV equal 40 minus 25 equals 15 centipoise. So if you need to check for the plastic viscosity, see the reading of 600 RPM in the report and 300 RPM in the report. Make this minus the 600 minus 300, it will give you 15 centipoise. So this is very important. So what is the indication of BV? It indicates that there is too much mud, water, for example, in oil-based mud, and there is too much solids, and the shape of solids is more increasing, and a lot of this. So it increases about the amount of solids is increasing, the type of solids increase, the shape and the size of solids also increases. The yield point is another property, as I told you. The yield point is the ability of the fluid to suspend or to carry cuttings while circulation. This is very important point. While circulation, okay. Why this happened? Due to the attraction forces between the fluid while circulation. So this is very important. Okay. Uh, Okay, the yield point, what is equal? It equals 300 RPM reading minus the plastic viscosity. It equals 300 RPM reading minus the plastic viscosity. So the yield point equal, for example, 325 minus BV that we got before, 15 equal 10 pound each 100 feet square. So this is very important. What is indications of the yield point? It is indication about electrically active solids. What is the meaning of electrically active solids? Electrically means that it makes bonds, chemical bonds, like the bond the the bonds that's for the hydrogen, for the oxygen bonds, for the divalent bond, the covalent bonds and etc. Okay, so once or also about there is some clay added into the mud, for example, because the clay is active, so that if you see for the yield point increased, this means that some chemicals were added which has some electrically active solids like clay, for example, like some polymers and other chemicals. Improper chemical additions also means, for example, if you added uh, if you, for example, added water, for example, to the oil-based mud, it will make hump in the viscosity and hump in the yield point. So this is improper chemical additions also indicates. So as I told you, the yield point to suspend the cutting during circulation, the attraction forces between intermolecular components of the mud. So this is very important. The gel strength. Now we will talk about the gel strength, and the gel strength is the resistance to the flow of the initial flow under static condition. Under what? Under static conditions. It can be measured in 10 seconds, 10 minutes, and 30 minutes. And how to measure it? First, you use also the viscometer, as I told you. You get to the highest speed, for example, 600, and stop, and then take the reading at the maximum deflection with the 3 RPM, with the 3 RPM, okay? After 10 seconds, after 10 minutes, after 30 minutes, you get the maximum deflection with the 3 RPM, so that this is the gel strength for 10 seconds, gel strength for 10 minutes, gel strength for 30 minutes. This is very important. What is the gel strength indicators? As I told you also, it is for electrically active solids like clay, especially clay. The clay is the most responsible for the gel strength, while the polymer is the most responsible for the yield point. This is very important. Also, improper chemical additions. For example, if you added too much soda ash and you have carbonate contamination, it will give you progressive gel. Progressive gel, which means that the difference in reading between 10 seconds and 10 minutes is very high. The types of gel strengths, there is something called fragile gel or flat gel, and some another ones called progressive gel. The fragile gel, where the difference between 10 second and 10 minutes reading is not high, which is very important before running casing, because if you are running casing with progressive gel, you may make fracture to the formation, and you cannot make good cement job, so you have to make flat gel before pull out of hole. Uh, but the progressive gel, it's mainly happened due to the contamination with carbonates, or due to high MPT, which means a high clay content in the mud. So this is very important. Okay. The ability to suspend cutting while circulation is interrupted, while static is interrupted by the gel strength. Reversible gel structure, this is very important parameter. Now you are drilling with mud, okay? So while circulation, you are carrying cutting to get out to get out of hold, or to the cutting will be carried out of hold. Okay, this is why it was yield point. But if you are making connection of, or if you are making anything, if you if you couldn't get a property in the mud which makes the mud to become, for example, coagulated, or the mud becomes while static, it has to keep the cutting suspended. Okay, so this is the gel strength. Okay, and after making again circulation, it has to be liquefied again. So we make this mud in this we make the mud to be in this shape, to be liquefied while circulation, and to be coagulated, or coagulated in static conditions. So this parameter is called, very important, it's called thioestropic property. It's called thioestropic property. For example, like the mud is like, for example, is like milk while making circulation, and becomes yogurt or yogurt while static. So it can keep the cutting suspended, and keep the bright suspended, and keep the other suspended while static. So this is very important. But once you start or establish again circulation, it has to be reliquefied again. So this is very, very important parameter, the property. It's called the thioestropic property for the mud. If there is insufficient gel strength, what will happen? It will cause the solids to settle. The solids, which are the barite and the drilling solids and the cutting and the chemicals, all the solids, it will be settled, and you may get stuck or back off. So this is very important. Bridging of the well bore also, it will make the part of the pipe hole fill. It will make hole fill with cutting, and reduction in hydrostatic pressure, as I told you, due to the barite sag that may happen, especially in high mud weights. Worse in deviated and horizontal wells, as distance solids have to settle in very small distance. Uh, Now also there is something very important, but we will talk about it. It's called the Z factor, which equals 2 2 multiplied by the reading of 3 RPM minus the reading of 6 RPM, so that it is double the reading of RPM minus one reading of 6 RPM. So it gives something called low shear yield point, and its value must be equal to the hole size. And the value of 6 RPM must be plus or minus 1.5 of the hole size, so that it can make good hole cleaning in horizontal and directional drilling. And we will talk about this in details when we are talking about the hole cleaning. Today I have talked with you about very, very, very vital and important lesson in mud engineering in basic mud school. I hope this video appeals to you. If this video appeals to you, please share, like, subscribe. It's your channel, not mine. And inshallah, we will talk later about very important thing. It's called the filtration properties. Inshallah, we will talk about tomorrow. Thank you very much, and see you later, inshallah. Thank you very much.